It's the Bulls Podcast, Episode 4.
A reporter asked me, like, you in a slump? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in a shooting slump. My dad called me immediately. He was fuming.
How can a young man be in a slump when you shoot 6 times a game? That's not a slump. That's a guy who's feeling pity for himself. I didn't raise you to have pity for yourself. And I told him everything is not going to be perfect. Just play your game.
Welcome to the Bulls Podcast, coming to you from bullspodcast.com. This is where we're bringing you all the latest news, reviews, rants, rumors, and opinions on the players, coaches, and front office of the Chicago Bulls. I'm your host, Marcus Couch, and with me is our co-host, Mr. Wyse Black.
Yo. What's up? What's good with all my Bull lifers out there, man? So I'm super stoked about today's show. We're on episode 4. This will be the 4th of many to come in the near future. And I have to say I'm truly humbled by just all of the positive reviews we've been getting on all the social media platforms, such as YouTube and all of that. So it just motivates me to continue on, man. So let's get it. Let's go.
All right. Also joining us today, and this is our very first guest on the show, and we couldn't think of a better person to be the first. While we're only on episode number 4, he's actually approaching episode 400. We're pleased to welcome a friend of the show, Mr. Fred Pfeiffer, also known as C. Red Fred from the Chicago Bullseye podcast. What's up, Fred?
Gentlemen, I'm living the dream here in Chicago. Some stormy skies headed in, unfortunately, but for our beloved Bulls, the skies are nice and bright. I can't wait for the season to begin. I'm so pumped. Marking in Levine, Parker, Dunn, Wendell Carter Jr., Valentine, Portis, the Big Red Leviathan, 7 pick last year, 7 pick this year, 7 seed this season, 7 title in 2020. That's my line, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow.
You guys on board?
Come on, get me in the big red bus. We all need to get on.
Exactly.
All right. So we got a lot in store for you this episode, including the state of the Bulls fan. Are we all mental, or is there really something to be enthusiastic about this year? You can already see Fred and Wyse and I are already enthusiastic. We're going to talk about the Bulls signing point guard Derek Walton Jr. from Miami. We're going to continue with our expectations for each Bulls player. Last shows, we've covered the guards, we've covered the centers. Now we're going to talk about power forwards for Chicago. And we've all got some fun trades to think about with the ESPN trade machine. And we're going to do that right after this. All right, let's talk about the state of the Bulls fan. Now, lately, I've seen so many reports and predictions for the upcoming Bulls season. Last week on the show, we laughed at all the Vegas odd makers and ESPN for their projections of under 30 wins, but no playoff appearances for the Bulls. I even watched NBA TV this week, and they dissed the Bulls in the upcoming year. Again, knocking them from any potential playoff expectations at all. Even one commentator I heard say, they're a good young core, but they're too young. And I'm thinking to myself, too young? So what is the proper expectation for us as a Bulls fan? Are we looking for way too much this year? Is there something that the C-red blinders are just preventing us from seeing that everyone else around the league sees? What's going on? I mean, we are a city, Chicago, that's endured sports droughts that can last over a century. Why are we being disrespected by everyone, knowing that we have a really good group of players that can do great things? Fred, what do you think?
Well, I think most of the so-called experts aren't anywhere near experts. I think that's a fact. They pretend to know that they're into every team, and when in reality they only pay attention to a few of the teams, and they're not really understand the underlying issues for teams like the Bulls, the lottery teams. For the most part, there's always exceptions. Everybody pays attention to the Knicks. Everybody obviously pays attention to the Lakers. But I found, talking to national writers that many of them don't have any idea what's going on. Or I'd say the more diehard fans have a better idea what's going on with the team than any national writer. There's some exceptions to the rule. Zach Lowe's pretty good, pretty zoned in. But one thing you got to realize, I've kind of come to realize this as I've gotten older and started to talk to more people. Writers give love to front offices who give them information. You'll see a guy like Kevin O'Connor for The Ringer, this guy constantly talking about how he's having conversations with a GM here or GM there. I'll never forget when he had on one of his shows, he mentioned that he just ripped on some coach, and he was talking about some conversation he was having with a GM. Those conversations don't happen with the Bulls. Nobody's talking to John Paxson and getting inside information, with the possible exception to Casey Johnson. Nobody's talking to, Gar Forman. The Bulls are well known, along with Oklahoma City, to be two of the most closeted, or secrets aren't given. Information isn't given out. Therefore, you're not going to get love. I mean, recently there was some Bleacher Report that ranked the front offices one of the dumbest things I've ever read in my life. They had Orlando ranked ahead of the Bulls. So let's just step back and look at just that fact. Orlando hasn't had a better record than the Bulls in like almost a decade.
Right.
By what measure do the Orlando Magic deserve to have a quote-unquote better front office than the Chicago Bulls? What did they do? Last year, did Markkanen made first-team all-rookie. The Orlando had a pick ahead of us. I understand Isaac was hurt for a lot of the year. This year, Wendell Carter Jr., obviously made first-team all-summer league. He obviously performed better than Bamba. Like, what free agent signing? It's insanity. Absolute insanity. So that's the number one thing, is you got to realize a lot of these writers have biases due to the fact that they get information from front offices like the Suns and the Celtics and Orlando, and they get rewarded for it.
I feel like we need to send some deep dish pizzas to some of these guys and say, hey, come on, start thinking Chicago when you're thinking of these things. What's wrong with you? But, hey, that's true. The PR and inside information is key, especially when it comes to sports writers and people that are in the media. Wyse, what's your take on this whole scenario?
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate just because I don't want to seem like a stan. Like, I love the Bulls, but I want to try to look at it from both ends of the spectrum. So for me, number one, I think many people doubt Fred Hoiberg's ability to coach, period. Like, I think many people see him as a college coach who got spoon-fed into the NBA by the Bulls front office. It seems to me that the consensus idea is that Fred can't handle NBA-level players. And I say this because if you throw Popovich or even Brad Stevens in as the coach for the Bulls, like, even as the team is currently constructed, I think the win projection for the Bulls would be at least 15 games higher. Number two, I think this whole idea about Jabari Parker playing out of his normal position at power forward, it also has many critics being skeptical. But me personally, I think he'll be just fine at the three. But third, even with Zach LaVine, I think he has a ton of doubters as well for many of the same reasons as Jabari. A lot of people say their defense sucks. Both players need the ball to be effective, and they don't know how to play team basketball. Jabari Parker to a lesser degree. So are the Bulls fans off of our rocker? Are we off of our rocker to think that we can make the playoffs next season? No. Is there a little home team bias there? Yes, a little bit, but the same that any fan would be for their home team, right? But I'll say, in my opinion, I think the Bulls have a far better chance at being a top 9 to 6 seed in the East as opposed to winning just 27 or 28 games come next season.
Another thing that I recognized was that a couple of these reporters were like, okay, well, yeah, what now? Chicago has Jabari Parker coming off of 2 ACLs. We got Zach LaVine coming off of an ACL. Mm-hmm. And I started to do a little bit of research. Who's come off of an ACL and had good years? And it surprised the hell out of me. Kyle Lowry, Ricky Rubio, KP, Corey Brewer, Jamal Crawford, Rajon Rondo, Brandon Knight, Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, it goes on and on. Al Jefferson, Nene, David West, Kendrick Perkins. All these guys recovered from ACLs and had pretty decent years. Were any of them a star beyond like Kyle Lowry? No, but it didn't hinder their play. They may not have been a star to begin with, right? Rondo doesn't seem to be hindered by that stuff at all. So I don't think it's injury, but Wyse, man, you hit on a good point, which is, I think it's Fred Hoiberg. I mean, Fred, what do you think? You agree that maybe it's the coaching that's hindering us in terms of the perception of the team?
No, I just think there's just a general perception that in overall the Bulls don't. I think most writers just don't believe in the moves they've made. I think the Jabari Parker, I was shocked, but I think overall the reaction has been negative from the vast majority of writers. I know I think it was Bobby Marks from ESPN came out strongly against it then he had to retract some of it because of the 1-year contract. In general, I don't see how you can ever I have a general rule in life, never get upset over a 1-year deal. I wasn't upset over the Rondo deal because it was basically a 1-year deal with a $3 million buyout. Never get upset over that. Jabari Parker's 23 years old. There were only 23 players in the NBA last year that averaged 20 points or more per game. He did that before tearing his ACL the second time. He clearly has the ability. It's completely worth a flyer. If it was a 4-year deal, I'd understand why you'd be upset, or even a 2-year deal, but it's not. It's a 1-year deal. It's a perfectly fine deal. The just hypocrisy is nauseating. It really is, because a lot of these same writers that I heard, a lot of these same stinking writers, and be honest, a lot of these doggable, I call it the doggable crowd, these overtly negative and every stinking move, these fans in the Bulls fan base, they're so negative on everything. These are the same losers that were telling me, complaining about the Bulls passing on Dennis Smith Jr. And him playing in during the last summer league. Dennis Smith Jr. had an ACL injury in high school.
Right.
And these are the same people complaining because we just signed 2 guys with ACL injuries. I think it's a little tainted just because of the history with Derrick Rose and obviously the negative effects that the ACL had on him. But overall,
that tore out our heart, man. That tore our heart out as Bulls fans.
Fred, really quick on Fred, I do want to say, there's 2 types of coaches. There's the coaches that ask the talent to adapt to their system, and the coaches that ask their talent or adapt their system to the talent. And, you can have success with both. The former is a dying breed, asking the talent to adapt to the system. Bobby Knight's an example of that in college ranks. Tom Thibodeau is a perfect example of that in the pro ranks. I think Fred is kind of like in that category, believe it or not. He's never had the talent to run his system. It's lacked 3-point shooting. Well, he doesn't have any excuses this year. You had Parker, who shot 38% from 3 last year. You're going to have Levine for the whole year. Who's clearly in the past been able to hit the 3. You got, Valentine, who can hit the 3. You have Markkanen, obviously. He's going to have obviously a better year, you think, from 3-point range. You got plenty of weapons there. So enough talk, and let's see it happen. We better have a top 10 offense, or I have no problem with letting them go.
Cool.
I like that. I agree, man.
Well, we'll put that one to bed, but let's talk about something else. The Bulls just pulled in another point guard. They just signed Derek Walton Jr. from Miami. The Heat had rescinded their qualifying offer for Walton, making him an unrestricted free agent. He's 6'1", about 190, went undrafted in 2017, but he signed with Miami Heat on a 2-way contract last year. He played in 16 games for the Heat, where he averaged almost 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, in about 9 minutes and some change per game. He had a season-high 7 points and 5 assists against the Mavericks in December last year. During his time in the G League with the Sioux Falls Skyforce, he started in 27 games, and he posted about 16.1 points a game, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and a steal and a half per game, all in about 32 minutes a game. He went to Michigan, played all 4 seasons, where he holds career averages of 11.6, 4.4 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and a steal a game at about the same clip, about 32 minutes a game. Only player in Michigan Wolverine history to record 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, and 400 assists in his career. He was named All Big Ten second team and Big Ten tournament MVP. Now, my question, besides the fact is, why did we sign him, is could this be the end of Cameron Payne as a Bull, or is this just wishful thinking on my part? Wyse, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you want that to happen, right? No, but okay. So when I watch this guy play, I can see that he has game, right? Like, he actually looks really good. After watching some tape of him at Michigan and some of his G League highlights, he definitely looks like he's going to easily pass up Ryan Arcidiacono as the 3rd point guard on the team. And depending on like practices and, some of the pre and regular season games, it's not too far-fetched that he could actually take Cam Payne's spot, or at least steal some minutes from Cam Payne at the backup point guard position if he plays well. The biggest difference I see between Cam Payne and Derek Walton isn't necessarily skill, because Cam isn't that bad of a shooter either. Derek Walton is known for his shooting. He shot at about a 40% clip, at Michigan, and about the same last year when he played with the Heat's G League team. But Campaign shot it at around the same thing as well, about 40% last season. But the main difference I see between these two players is attitude, the dog mentality. I see the fight and aggressive body language in Derek Walton, and that's a trait that Campaign lacks, in my opinion. Effort usually wins coaches over, so Campaign might actually have to worry about his spot and playing consistent minutes at backup point guard next season.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you and I have talked about this, and Fred, you probably know about it. Savage life coming out of Arizona with Raleigh Elkins and Laurie Marketing, and I'm of the feeling that this season needs to be kind of savage life, like this mentality of, just savagery and, we need to own it. I don't see Cameron Payne as that. I see this new guy as that, but yeah. I just don't see that killer instinct out of Cameron Payne. I could be wrong, but Fred, what's your reaction to this signing?
Well, I agree. I hope he's past, Ryan Archibald in the NBA. I just don't think that kid shouldn't be in the NBA. He doesn't have enough defensive talent to play. So I hope he's past him. I thought Campaign played really well at points last year. I know it's not popular to say. He shot 38% from three, which is one of the most important things I want him to do. Mm-hmm. That's an excellent percentage. I thought he had a number of really solid games. And I think it's possible that, no doubt he was awful, absolutely awful. And I thought he was awful at the Windy City for the Windy City team, the G League team that I often go watch. When I saw him play, he just, looked slow. There was just something wrong with him. But, as someone who's had to deal with foot injuries in the past, you look like a completely different guy when your foot is not right. And you lose all that quickness. You lose all that burst of speed. I think it was possible that he was playing hurt. He had those issues. He did have surgery on that foot at the end of last year. And he just looked like a completely different player to me last year. And if he keeps on hitting 38% from three, like he did last season, he'll be fine at the backup point guard position. I don't want him playing that much just because I want Dunn to lead the team in minutes by a large margin this year. I think he's has first team All-NBA defensive ability and a team that is lacking in overall defensive talent. You need to have that guy on the court as much as possible. So I hope Dunn leads the team in minutes and just handles the point guard duties for most of the game. So Derek Walton Jr., I don't think he's going to see the court too much. Hopefully with Windy City.
They actually signed him. He's not on a two-way contract.
My gosh. So they can't send him to Windy City? That's insanity. Well, because I know they signed Ryan Archie not in the NBA to an actual deal, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah?
Well, that was dumb. I didn't know that. I just assumed it was a two-way deal. My first criticism of the front office will occur right here. So I don't agree to sign Derek Walton Jr. to
Get out the big red book. Here's the first one.
Yeah, guaranteed deal.
All right, well, we'll continue with more right after this. Hey, remember, everybody, we're a new show, and we do need your support in social media. We made it super easy to find us on all our social media links. You can just go to bullspodcast.com/social, and we've got everything listed there. Or if you just want to take the direct route, we made some short links for you. bullspodcast.com/Twitter, bullspodcast.com/Facebook/YouTube/Instagram. You get the point. Help us out on social, spread the word, and make the Bulls Podcast great. All right, we continue with our trend of evaluating all of the Chicago Bulls. We've done the guards, we've done the centers, and now we're going to deal with the power forwards. A lot going on here with power forwards this year. So let's get right into it. Wendell Carter Jr. A lot of expectations for Wendell Carter Jr. this year, mostly from his own making. When he was drafted, I don't think we were expecting the savage defender and shot blocker that showed up last year at Summer League. He shocked everybody to the point that there's even talk going around that maybe the wrong Duke guy was picked in the draft from the higher up teams. So my question is, what do we expect from Wendell Carter Jr. this upcoming season? Is Rookie of the Year out of the realm of possibility? Fred, what do you think?
I think it would have to take an injury for him to be Rookie of the Year. I don't think he's going to be starting. I think they're going to go with Lopez and Markkanen at the 4, or some type of trade. And I think that's probably a good move. I love the kid. I mean, he was my overall evaluation had number 3. You know, if you listen to any of our Bullseyes or Big Red Bus, I was absolutely shocked that anyone had Mo Bamba ahead of Wendell Carter Jr. If you watch game tape, it's just if you just judge it strictly on college game tape, there's no way you can come to that conclusion. You might say, in the future he could, other players might grow to be better, but there's literally nothing I saw on the offensive end that I thought he had a fault. He shot the ball extremely well from three, which I think is very important. Shot well from the free throw line. He shot over 40% from three, which leaves the Bulls to me in the future as one of the few teams that can have a 4 and a 5 that can hit the three at a 40+ rate. That's just going to open up runways for Levine and Dunn, whoever wants to rim rock. I think it's just a huge advantage to have a 4 and a 5 that can hit the three like that. On the defensive end, anybody who watched any games saw he was the whole force. The best rebounder in the team, the best defensive player. He was fantastic. There are questions about his lateral ability, which I never really understood since Duke was stuck in his zone so much, and I never saw any issues where it was a problem, and I think he showed in Summer League. He alleviated any concerns, hopefully there. Very underrated passer. That was another thing that really came off the tape, and I think this year he's just going to be fantastic. He'll probably make first-team All-NBA. Making Rookie of the Year, I think, is probably going to go to someone who's got more of an opportunity on an inferior team. But I think he will be first-team All-NBA to be a second year in a row for the Bulls to have another one.
Wow, that's quite a prediction. Wyse, what do you think?
Well, being on the pod with Fred now, like, all I can think about is how much he raved about Wendell Carter Jr., before the draft on his pod, man.
Little history there.
That is true. That is true.
Like, you will always rave about Wendell Carter Jr., and I'm like, man, I like Mo Bamba. Or tell you the truth, Fred, like, why did I even like what's the guy's name? And I can't even believe it. Who the Hawks got? Trae Young. I even kind of like Trae Young a little bit over Wendell Carter Jr. So yeah, I'm kicking myself now. But like I said, I wanted the string being man Mo Bamba, but I'll admit that after seeing Wendell Carter Jr. play in the Summer League, I now see what Fred saw in him. Like, I believe if Wendell Carter Jr. can get the right amount of minutes, I know you said that if a player who has a better opportunity on a weaker team, you think that they maybe can get Rookie of the Year over him. But I think if Wendell Carter Jr. can get at least around like 25 minutes per game or something like that, I think he can be in the running for Rookie of the Year. I just think that with his defensive presence in terms of blocking shots, his mobility and foot speed to stay in front of his men and even switch onto guards, with his ability to contest a shot at the right time to not commit a foul, play help defense and all of that, combined with his polished shooting for a big man and overall offensive awareness, I really think Wendell Carter Jr. could be the closest thing to an NBA-ready player this coming season in comparison to his draft class.
I hope he does, man. I really hope he does.
Yeah,
all right.
I do want to just say one more thing about Mo Bamba. I keep on going back to, because I watched a ton of tape on the guy. The guy's he couldn't pass. All right, so he had 17 games with 0 assists. His high in the college season in 30 games was 2.
Yeah.
So he couldn't pass. He didn't shoot. He was terrible shooting. His 3-point shot was terrible. His free throw percentage was awful. It was under 70. So he couldn't do either of those two things. The one thing I was impressed with is I thought he handled the ball very well for a big guy, Bamba. But I can guarantee you this. Defensively, so I watched I keep on going to this West Virginia game. I always like go and see who the best teams are playing, especially defensively, and I want to watch that game. He was a travesty in that game. Absolute embarrassing. And he was just manhandled down low. He's 225, soaking wet. And everybody says, well, he'll gain 30 pounds of muscle. No one gains 30 pounds of muscle. No, that doesn't happen. You don't gain 30 pounds of muscle. You gain 30 pounds of fat. I've done that. If you don't gain 30 pounds of muscle, at best, he'll be 237. That'll be his max, right? You can't guard. You're not going to guard the best guys in the league that are 250, 260 at 237. I don't know. So, but I mean, that said, I think we're all going to look back and laugh that, Mo Bamba was picked ahead of Wendell Carter Jr. And of course, it's Orlando Magic with another stinker. Hey, but they got a better front office according to ESPN or Bleacher Report.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Bobby Portis. When he started, it was all about free Bobby Portis, if you recall that. But once he was free, he tore up the rims and shot it from outside unlike any big man the Bulls have had in a long time. He did have a rough start last year, but by knocking out Nikola Mirotic and all, but he rebounded pretty quickly. It was obvious that the Bulls wanted Bobby over Nico, and obviously the results, you can see that in the roster today. But what will Bobby be doing this year with the likes of Jabari Parker, Wendell Carter Jr., and Lauri Markkanen? He played every game last season, barring the suspension games, and he improved in almost every category, dropping 13.2 points a game on 47% shooting. Is this the year that Bobby makes that run for sixth man of the year, or are we just kind of hoping that he does just good enough before the deadline so that we can move him for a more important piece of the rebuild? Wyse, what's your take on BP?
So I actually like Bobby Portis. Like I do. I actually would want to keep Bobby Portis. So like to me, Bobby Portis is just the young goon on the team. He doesn't back down from anyone, and based on his play since he's entered the league, getting better and better each year he's played, like there's not too many negative things I can say about Bobby Portis' game. Yes, his defense needs work, and personally, I'd like him to bulk up some, but outside of that, BP is he's a ready-made NBA big man for today's game. His long ball shot is respectable. He shot it at a 36% clip last season. And if he focuses on bulking up as well, I think that'll just make his inside game all the better. That should also help with his rebounding on both ends of the court. So if Bobby Portis improves on those areas that I just laid out, I expect him to be a contributor on the championship team for years to come.
Fred?
Yeah, so I'd like to point out also when we picked him 22 in that draft, the Orlando Magic had the 5th pick and they took Mario. So I'd like to.
I love it, man.
The superior front office, they took Mario Hezonja, who's not even on the team now. Anyhow, I like Bobby Portis. I don't love Bobby Portis, and I'm really concerned that next year he'll be going into his restricted free agency year. And I could see him getting some kind of insane offer, for $20 million, similar to what Zach LaVine got. Yeah, I think Bobby Portis has sixth man of the year potential. I really do, because I think he could bring it offensively. My problem with him is defensively. I think he's awful for a big man. And just me personally, I really believe you need to have your stronger defenders at the 4 and the 5 overall, unless you're like a Markkanen type who's not horrible. Offensively, but like a Dirk Nowitzki, they're never going to send anybody home defensively. But if you're going to be, I think I prefer to have stronger guys there. And I just think he's really weak on the defensive end. He's a horrible rim defender. Go ahead,
Fred. What would you say is Bobby Portis' weakest aspect of his defense? Like, what would you point to? His awareness?
Well, without a doubt, his rim defense. I think at almost every advanced stat I've seen when he's in the game, Bulls, the opponents at the rim, field goal percentage is very high. So he just doesn't have the jumping ability. He's a very poor jumper. He doesn't have the athletic ability vertically to disrupt a lot of shots at the rim. Right. It's so funny, all these people I know hated Pau Gasol when he was here. The Bulls, he was one of the, according to the advanced statistics, and I'm supposed to go by everything. According to advanced statistics, Pau Gasol was one of the elite rim defenders in the league. He was one of the best. The Bulls always had an excellent defensive field goal percentage at the rim when he was in the game. And, he's like he's just a complete opposite of that. What he does great is all offensively for me. I think Portis is just really weak defensively. That said, offense is important in today's NBA. The teams 1 and 2 in offensive efficiency last year were Houston and Golden State. And the 6th team was Cleveland. I think in defensive efficiency, I think Houston was 5th. I think Golden State was 9th. And I think Cleveland was 29th. So it's more important that you err on the side of offense. So I think there's huge value to him. But I have major concerns that he's going to get overpaid next year.
Yeah, since you bring up Pau Gasol, when he was with us, he was the double-double machine, game in, game out. I mean, I think at one time he had the longest streak in the NBA as far as double-doubles in the season. I'd love to see Bobby get to that level, to where he's getting 10 boards and,
Yeah, he's 15. Just nowhere near as good of a rebounder as Gasol was. It's funny, a scout I really trust who was really high in Portis when he was drafted said he had a comp he foresaw him in 5 years of having a comp to Robert Ory, big shot Robert Ory. And if you think about it, it's not that out of right now looking at him, it's not that insane. You know, Ory was never a great defender, but he was a 3-point shooter, hit big shots. It's one of the things I love about Portis. I thought some of his biggest games were against really good teams. He was fantastic in the playoffs against Boston a few years ago. People forget that. So I think he has a lot of good qualities, but they're almost all on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, let's go over to Lauri Markkanen. So what can we say about the finisher that hasn't been said? I mean, he's surpassed any expectation and actually made Garpax look like geniuses of the league by trading away Jimmy Butler and getting the whole boatload in return. Now, we all knew Lauri was not going to win Rookie of the Year last year due to all the Ben Simmons hype and all of that, but he still had a pretty amazing year last year. A lot of this was due to the Bobby Portis-Nico fiasco like we talk about, but he was the silver lining in a very dark Bulls cloud last year. So with the re-signing of Zach LaVine, the addition of Jabari Parker, Lauri's going to get a lot of action right out of the gate with a lot of guys that can move the ball. Practically the entire Bulls team right now centers around the growth of Lauri Markkanen. We have so much hype going on for Lauri that it's going to be surprising if he can actually live up to it this year. Do we all assume that he's going to be an all-star this year? To me, it's probably unlikely, but there will be that time coming soon. So where do we place Lauri among his career growth and projected paths to stardom during this upcoming season? Is this the breakout year for Lauri, or is what we're already getting good enough? Fred, what do you think of Lauri?
Well, I think, number one, he's got to get his three-point percentage up to 40%. I think that's the magic number. Once you're able to hit that, your guys are going to have to guard you out 35 feet, and I think you'll see that. Almost every great player that I looked at in their rookie year had the lowest three-point percentage of their career. So that's one area where you think he's going to get a little bit better. I'm one of the few people on record who feels that he has top 10 potential, that in his year 3, 4, or 5, he could become one of the 10 best NBA players in the league, but best players in the league. Right now, to me, there's a clear 9 in that tier. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Curry, Harden, Giannis, Kawhi, Embiid, Anthony Davis, and Westbrook. To me, that's the top 9, and I'd probably put Damian Lillard 10. So you got to ask yourself, can he get into that group? I think he's going to get really close, and hopefully at 8 or 9 somewhere in the next few years. I really have high hopes for him. I just don't. I've seen so much that I love about him. There's very few things he can do. I love how hard he takes it to the rim. But it all starts with the shooting. If you can shoot like that, I don't know, you guys I'm sure played the game. To me, that was the most frustrating thing to do, is having to guard a big man who could beat you in the post, who could go off a pick and roll, and still you got to guard him out to 35 feet. Big guys don't like going out that far. It's just It's extremely tiresome for them. So I think he's going to just wreak havoc on the league. And most importantly, the last 6 games of the year, the last 6 Bulls wins, I remember going through the numbers. I think he averaged in about 22 minutes, I think he averaged like a 27. 20 points and 7 rebounds per game. He was absolutely fantastic, and he was a big reason they won those games. So I saw great progress at the end of the season. You're hoping with all the talent that they'll be able to mesh. Might take a while, but I have very high hopes for Lauri Markkanen.
I think that Lauri has the makings of carving out his own lane in the NBA down the line. I know he draws a lot of comparisons to Dirk Nowitzki because he's a European player that can shoot the 3 ball, but if you ask me, that's clearly not all he has to offer. Like, Lauri has enough quickness to guard smaller players on switches. He has the athleticism to block shots at a respectable clip, in addition to his age at just 21, where, I think he has the time to develop defensively to where he won't get in foul trouble and make mistakes on that end of the floor in the future. As for his game offensively, I think we all agree that the sky's the limit for Lauri. Last year, everyone had questions about his size. Boom. This summer, he takes care of that by, packing on 15 pounds of muscle. If he can up his 3-point shooting percentage, as Fred said, I think that he'll definitely be perfect. I think that he'll just be perfect for us. I can see him developing a solid post game with the new addition of this muscle as well. So I'm also sure that Fred Hoiberg is going to play with the lineup some and have Lauri at the 5 with Jabari, or even Hutch playing some of the minutes at the 4 as well. So especially with some of the small ball lineups. So I don't know. We shall see, man. But I believe in Lloyd Markin. I think he's definitely gonna be one of the best players in the league in a couple years.
I agree. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with some potential trades for the Chicago Bulls this season. All right, we're back again, and we got some cool trades using the ESPN trade machine. Now, remember, don't bite our heads off with these like you've been doing in some of the comments that we've seen. These are just fun trades, and plus the ESPN trade machine is kind of full of it anyway because it just kind of takes salary into play. But we've come up with some, and Fred, you've got one too. Why don't you kick yours off, Fred, and break our hearts with this trade?
I'm almost embarrassed to say it after my great review of marketing, but I'll throw this out there because I think Minnesota is one of the only teams dumb enough to do this deal. Marketing, although I think it's quasi fair, marketing and Bobby Portis for Karl Anthony Towns and Tyus Jones.
Ooh.
So if Tibbs was running things there, I think I don't know how he feels about marketing. If you're going to believe what he said that he wanted, to trade for him, then maybe they do it because it's clear right now Towns is on the out with him and with Jimmy, and it's to me absolutely insane. Karl Anthony Towns to me is one of the best players in the NBA. I think last year was a travesty how he was used. It was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen for, to me, the best post player in the NBA to get maybe every 5 trips down to get a look in the post. He was basically played at the 3-point line, which he turned into an incredible 3-point shooter on that team that basically had zero shooting, and so that was huge. But it was criminal how he was utilized there. And I think getting Towns would be just a massive coup. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Markkanen probably. I think Towns has top 4 potential in this league. There's nothing that kid can't do offensively. And, his coach doesn't like him. Jimmy doesn't like him. And I'd be happy to take him off their hands. I also think Tyus Jones has been misused over there too. So he's the one guy I take. I do it almost quasi-reluctantly because I think one of the greatest things to have is a star on a rookie deal, and you better take advantage of those years. And now he's coming up to the point where he's going to need to get paid. So that's unfortunate, but I'd still make that deal. I have that much of a love for Towns.
Yeah, if we're going to do something like that, we better do it quick before Tibbs runs him into the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, do you know Towns has never missed an NBA game? He's played every game. 82 his rookie season, and 82 every year he's never missed a game. That's amazing.
Luckily with Tom Thibodeau as his coach.
Yeah. Talk about durability though, huh?
Oh, for sure. I dig this trade. I could actually see it happening, like especially if Cat wants out of town, like no pun intended. Laurie is our piece of the future who draws comparisons to like Kristaps Porzingis and even Dirk Nowitzki. And Bobby Portis is no pushover either. So I think it's a fair trade, although I don't think they throw in Tyus Jones just because we're getting the best player in the deal and they like him as a future piece on their team too. But overall, great trade.
All right. Well, let's see who I can tick off with this trade. Here's mine for this week. The Bulls trade Robin Lopez, Cameron Payne, and Bobby Portis to Boston in exchange for Kyrie Irving, plus maybe a 1st or 2nd round pick. I know. Wyse, you chastised me yesterday on the text message about this trade and said I was dreaming, right?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
We're all dreaming anyway, okay? We're all dreaming anyway. So here's my basis for this. Kyrie just refused his contract extension in Boston, which means the Celtics are probably looking to move him for something if they can get it, right? I mean, they went so far in the playoffs last year without Kyrie to begin with. There's rumors that the Knicks or the Lakers might want him, but it's my feeling that Chicago might actually be a better landing spot for Kyrie long term rather than just chasing a ring for 1 year. So it's been rumored actually that the Knicks would team Kyrie with Jimmy Butler. That would go nowhere. Sorry, but it's just not gonna. That would be terrible. So we should do this trade instead. It would free up Robin Lopez, which would accelerate playing time for Wendell Carter Jr. We'd also be able to get some room for a max contract next year if we take Jabari Parker off the books. And Bobby Portis probably looks like he's going to be wanting big money at the end of his contract, so he's probably not worth it. He's barely a starter. Campaign, everybody knows where that one already ranks in my book. So we wouldn't need him at all if we get Kyrie and move Dunn to the backup point guard to run the second unit. What do you think, Wyse? Besides the chastising.
I don't know what. I don't. No, obviously this would be a no-brainer for the Chicago Bulls. Like, we would all love this trade, but like, I gotta be honest. Like, I don't see it happening in a million years. Like, at least not in the trade. I do think Kyrie would come to Chicago, but it would be as a like free agent, or we have to give up a couple of our core pieces. You're trying to give them like Robin Lopez, Campaign, and Bobby Portis. Danny Ainge will never go for that. Like, that would be the first time they get robbed. You know what I'm saying? So something like this will obviously be a no-brainer for the Bulls, but it's clearly wishful thinking, Marcus.
Right. I've seen worse deals.
I got to agree with Wyse to 100%. I mean, are you kidding me? Not a million years. I mean, I don't even care if he leaves. There's no way the Celtics should be trading Irving if they got a shot at going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think we all agree they do, or to the finals. They're not going to trade Irving. He's one of the top 15 players in the NBA. I don't have him at top 10. That's one thing I do want to mention really quick, throw out there with this trade is I keep on hearing people always tell the Bulls got to have a top 10 player or else they're not going to win a title. And that's not true. It's just not a fact. The Celtics don't have a top 10 player. Yeah. They have a very deep, broad team. But, I mentioned the top 9, and I'd rather have Lillard. I'd rather have Paul George. I'd rather have Towns than Irving. You can even possibly argue Oladipo or Porzingis over Irving. So the Celtics, their best player, they have a bunch of guys that are in, probably 12 to 40, and that's what the Bulls are, I think, building towards. They're building for another version of Boston, a little bit more offensive centric, and Boston's deep team more defensive centric.
All right, Wyse, let's hear your trade.
All right, for me, I have the Bulls getting Anthony Davis from the New Orleans Pelicans, and I have the Bulls sending the Pelicans Robin Lopez, Wendell Carter Jr., Justin Holiday, Denzel Valentine, and a 2021 unprotected first-round pick. Now, my thinking behind this trade is obvious. The Chicago Bulls get the hometown kid, because he's tired of being stuck in mediocrity, and he expresses his desire to leave the Pelicans next season and come home. Like, the Bulls give up their prize rookie, a couple of nice pieces. I was actually going to include Campaign instead of Denzel Valentine, but I just wanted to make it as realistic as possible. I also, like I said, I see them giving up a future first-round pick. And I see Anthony Davis joining the squad. We take over the East, and we be in championship contention for the next 6 to 7 years with the development of Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and a few other pieces on the team. It's a match made in heaven. It's going to happen. Where my Bull lifers at? It got to happen, man. Legit. What you think, Fred?
I love the trade. I don't think they would agree to it in a million years. I mean, I would do whatever it takes to get Anthony Davis.
But you don't think that they would do it if we gave them Wendell Carter Jr. And the 2021 unprotected first round pick?
No.
No,
I think it's going to cost. I think they would do it for consider it for Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr. and the number 1 pick next year. And I would consider it then. It would be what I would still probably do it. I think Davis is that good. I think last year what he did with Drew Holiday and then Nico Mirotic. I mean, think about what he did with those guys. It was his performance down the stretch last year. To me, was arguably one of the best I've seen in the last 10 years. It was phenomenal.
For sure.
Phenomenal. And it was just as good as anything LeBron's ever done. It's just as good. He didn't do it for an extended period of time as LeBron has, but it was just as good. And, he won that first round series. He's awesome. And I heard a really interesting, proposal out there. Like, in 30 years from now, the best player, people are going to say the best player in the NBA played in this era, and it's not LeBron James. Who would that player be?
Man, Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis is my pick too. That's exactly what I got. People are throwing out Durant, and I'm like, no, I think I'd go with Davis over Durant.
Yeah. Heck, I'd throw in Benny the Bull if this trade would work.
Look, okay, my reasoning for even saying, like, because I agree, Anthony Davis, like, even last year, I felt like he was a top 2, top 3 player, even last year. So I get that would, like, not be a great trade necessarily for the Pelicans, but that's why I mentioned, Anthony Davis, not wanting to be there anymore. I think that's the only way that it will happen, because usually when players, they start to, not like the front office, they get into it with them, they get, just aggravated with the front offices, then it lowers their value, because many teams know that they don't want to be there anyway, right? So that's the only reason I think that trade could happen.
Well, let's just throw out this hypothetical.
Well,
hold on a second. I want to try one real quick thing before we wrap this up. Let's throw out a hypothetical. Let's say Davis says that. Like, I want to be traded. I'm not going to resign here.
Yeah.
And the Bulls are in it. Okay? And let's say they do put together a package of marketing Wendell Carter Jr., number 1 pick next year. Can the Celtics beat that?
Ooh, no.
Now, I don't think they will want to give up too much. I don't think, like, I don't see them giving up their rookie from last year. Tatum. I don't see them giving him up. I could see them giving up Brown.
It would
obviously
cost
Horford, Kyrie. But I think the Bulls package is better.
Yeah, I mean, with Kyrie not committed, and Kyrie's 28 too. See, I think it would cost them. I think if I'm the Pelicans, I would consider it would be Tatum, Brown, I don't know, maybe Rozier. Yeah, those 3. Those are the only 3 I would consider. I think the Bulls got him beat on the best potential trade.
And giving up Tatum, giving up Brown, giving up whoever Kyrie, that would be giving up their entire team. So yeah, you're gonna have Anthony Davis, but what else do you have?
Yeah,
you don't have any pieces around him. So yeah, the Bulls package that would be better, definitely.
All right, well, we'll package this up and send this over to Gar and Pax and see what they think. Let us know what you think. You know how to reach us on social, all that stuff. Tell us how crazy we are, just like last week. We'll be right back to wrap up the show. All right, that was a lot of fun. We had a great time here in the show. Fred, thank you so much for joining us today. How can folks reach out and find you and your great podcast and all that?
Well, you can find everything at chicagobullseye.com or on iTunes. You could look under for Chicago Bullseye. I got a podcast been going on since 2007, I think we started it, 2007. Yeah. And then I started a new one with Doug Tonis, the great one. Doug Tonis, a brilliant, legendary podcaster called The Big Red Bus, and that's a lot of fun. We're kind of taking a little hiatus for the last couple of weeks because there's not much going on in August, but we'll start wrapping it up as we get closer to season. I asked everybody, try to be positive here. I mean, I know I had Darnell Mayberry on the last episode of the Bullseye, and he was the beat writer for Oklahoma City, beat writer for Chicago, and I asked him what's the biggest difference, and he said without a doubt the negativity in the Bulls fan base. And I understand some of it, but I think a lot of it is just ridiculous. I mean, we've had 2 losing seasons since 2004. Look at some of the organizations across this league. They're just travesties for decades. And there's a lot of hope here. I think the young talent is there. And I do see a brighter tomorrow. And I think everybody should, support the beloved Bull, regardless who's running things.
Absolutely. All right, Wyse, any parting words for you?
I just want to say, Fred, it was awesome having you on, man. Appreciate the love for coming on our infant new podcast. And it was just a blast talking with you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Wyse. I wish we had talked at Tonis's house, man. I am not going to make that mistake next year. We're sitting down and we're going to talk about the burgeoning Leviathan and our eventual title in the next season.
Legit, man.
All right.
Yeah, I think Doug was just a little bit wasted by the time you got there. He was already wasted,
he was
man.
Flying, man. He was flying. That's right.
It was a dope party, though. Awesome, man.
Yeah, Marcus, you got to come out, too. Let's get everybody together.
All right. Well, I'll do it.
Dinner. We got to get our buddy from Australia. Ever listen to him from Bulls HQ? Mark?
Yeah. He's coming on this. He's coming on the show soon.
Oh, that's a big mistake. Oh, my God. I mean, that's great.
We got we got Mark coming on. We got Edward Schuler, the host of the Bulls Gold, coming on. Doug hopefully will be coming on pretty soon, and I might even lure Jay Hall, from old host of the Bulls Zone, to come on in retirement and join us.
He's in Cali, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
That's
yeah.
with you, huh? Nice.
Oh, he's not too far from me, but he's not coming over. He's still going to be on the normal recording. But yeah, but we got a lot coming up, and we got some surprises coming to the show really soon. So, Fred, once again, man, thanks so much. I'll say this kind of kiddingly, but after hearing almost 400 episodes of your show, I knew that we could easily do it. So.
Oh man, I love it. All right. Hey guys,
thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening, everybody. You know how to find us. Spread the word, please, about the show, and also, give some love to Fred online. Subscribe to his podcast wherever he's found, which is pretty much everywhere. Until next time, thanks for listening. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.